We're on now. We are live. Good early afternoon. Just computer error, I suppose. We're glad to be here, and we're glad you're here. I'm Andy Andrews. This is the Blue Plate Special, and this is the first time I've been back in the studio in...
I don't know, it feels like you've been gone for ages.
I have been gone for ages. For 2 weeks, which is like ages. Yeah, I went to Nashville, and I was there for several days. Saw a recording, did some recording with Gordon Mote for Wisdom Harbor. We've got to remember to get that transferred.
Yes.
Okay, because it was just like hilarious stuff. And let's see, from Nashville, I went to Springfield, Missouri. Actually, Reed Springs, Missouri, because I spent the day with Grant Woods, Dr. Grant Woods, with Growing Deer TV, and then the next morning I went to that World of Wildlife thing there that's connected to the Bass Pro Shops. That's the first Bass Pro Shops, and so it's the be all and end all. But the World of Wildlife Museum and Aquarium, voted the #1 aquarium in America, is unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I have never seen anything like this. I mean, you go in the Africa place, and it isn't just like one zebra, it's a herd of zebras. And just unbelievable. They've got Ernest Hemingway's yacht restored and put in there. They've got Zane Grey's yacht. They have a presidential gallery which has the you can see George Washington's fishing lures and see Jimmy Carter asleep on the bank of a pond with a cane pole in his hand, and Roosevelt with a big sea bass, Harry Truman fly fishing. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They've got Teddy Roosevelt's cabin that he stayed in Idaho or one of those mountain places. But they've got his cabin reconstructed in there. And I mean, I just can't tell you. I ran through it in 4 hours. And so this is like a day thing probably for you. Roger Luker? Hey, I didn't even see you out there. So how are you doing, buddy? Roger is my oldest friend on the planet. I mean, now he's not like in his 90s or anything. He is like Aunt Martha, who is Roger's mother, and it's not really my aunt, but I call her Aunt Martha. Aunt Martha and my mom were best friends, and Aunt Martha was pregnant with Roger when my mom was pregnant with me. So when we arrived within a month of each other, they threw us in a playpen together, and Roger's my oldest friend. So, hey Tama, how are you doing? I'm so glad you guys are here. We have a bunch of people here in the studio today. Let's see, who do we have? Who do we have in the studio? Marty and Bob Patterson from Georgia. Hey guys, how are you doing? Roger and Tammy from Beaufort, Georgia. Mike and Deborah Farron from Longview, Texas. Hey, hey. Sorry about that Alabama game. Yeah, I mean, I know. Alabama played the worst game ever to win that. I'm almost embarrassed, but we're not going to give it back. Okay. Suzette from Birmingham. Where's Suzette? Hey, Suzette. Now, who's this? Baxter the dog? Now, Baxter is a standard poodle? Miniature poodle. I can't hear anything she's saying. So I wish, if Glenda Perkins was here, Glenda could give me sign language, but I can't read sign language. So she could do it, but I can't read it. So, but anyway, it's a beautiful dog. It's a white poodle. We had a black one. We had a black standard poodle. We had Carver. And now I'm going to start crying. You know, Carver was 13 years old. And it was awful. It was awful. Carver's like, you know, he was almost human. And so, you know, we thought about putting our kids to sleep instead of Carver, but we did. Tim and Holly Moody from Gadsden, Alabama. Hey, Gadsden. You know, Gadsden is an odd place to me, and I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. It's an odd place because it's like fertile ground for great people or something. I mean, you know, Rick and Bubba are from Gadsden area, and then Gordon Moat is from Gadsden, and Red Irwin. Do you know who Red Irwin is? Red Irwin is a Congressional Medal of Honor winner from Gadsden, and in World War II, he was the bombardier, and he was the one that was going to push out the very first phosphorus bomb so it would show the target area for everybody else. And that thing exploded inside the plane. And he grabbed it and put it to his chest and got to a window and got it out. And it was I mean, they thought, you know, surely he's dead now. And because it got his face, his arms, chest, everything. And but they diverted and went and got him to Iwo Jima, the hospital in Iwo Jima, and Curtis LeMay and Harry Truman. I think it was Curtis LeMay. They knew he was going to get the Congressional Medal of Honor, but they also figured he's not gonna make it, you know, and so Curtis LeMay could not get a Medal of Honor, could not get the medal, and so he sent a crew of guys to another island where the general had a Congressional Medal of Honor on display, and so they broke into the building, broke the display case, got the Congressional Medal of Honor, and that's the one that was given to Red Irwin, and Curtis LeMay gave it to him, but Red Irwin is the Irwin brothers, the filmmakers' grandfather. It's John Irwin's grandfather, and so but he lived and ended up working at the VA, and so it's just an amazing story. But Gadsden always kind of freaks me out because so many people, you know, Bradley Walker is from the Gadsden area. So anyway, and you guys, you know, Archie and Debbie Kane from Vicksburg. Hey, Vicksburg. I used to eat in a catfish place in Vicksburg when I'd go through there. I used to drive every day. Christy is here, Christy Woods. You know, Christy, did you hear that Roger's here? Roger and Tammy are here. They're in the studio. So Rhonda Hackney Robertson, good afternoon. Marcy Crosser Taylor, Pasco Washington, Sandra Mendonca, Dina Kilpatrick, Barbara Benjamin, from Michigan, the Levine Boys, Christmas Caroling Adventures. Hey, guys. We got a bunch of people here and a bunch of people watching. And we have a great show. I mean, I'm just telling you, we have hit on a great topic today. Jerry Zika from Central Wisconsin. The topic is things that we have because of NASA that, you know, we wouldn't have if it hadn't been for NASA. So that's our topic today. I saw something that we probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for NASA in Colorado. Because from Springfield, I went to Colorado, and I was hunting, but had a great time, but did not get anything. Everything that I saw was out of season, on somebody else's land, But I had an awesome time. Met some great people, and got some great pictures of. They don't arrest you for taking pictures of somebody, an animal on somebody else's land. But I was out to elk hunt and did not do any. I didn't do any damage, but we had a great time. But then an hour out of town, I'm driving an hour out, and I look to the right, and there in the meadow is this 800-pound bull elk, a 6x6, a massive elk, and he has his cows over there with him, and I'm sitting there in the car with a camera, and he's flipping me the bird. It was awful. It was embarrassing, but had an awesome time there, and was out with the Larimores out there and met a bunch of their buddies, great people. Jacob says that I better show his Uncle Roger a good time. So, yeah. So, anyway, Nancy Freeland from Jacksonville, Florida. Here we go. We've got some things because of NASA. Oh, I was going to say, out in Colorado, we used a night vision out there, not to hunt, but we found a stand with night vision going
That's
through
cool.
the dark, and the colonel would look, and then I'm just following behind him in the dark, and so then he turns around and he says, "You want to see why I got this night vision?" Sure. He said, "Here, find the stand," and I went, "There it is." I mean, it was pretty cool. So I don't know if we have night vision because of NASA, but we do have memory foam mattresses. I mean, if your mattress, your pillow, your couch, your desk chair, or your bike seat contains memory foam, which was first labeled temper or temper foam, and of course, the Tempur-Pedic people took that over. But anyway, if you have memory foam, you can thank NASA. The material was developed by an aeronautical engineer named Charles Yost, and it was used to create better shock-absorbing aircraft seats for the test pilots. There you go. Which I love that stuff. I mean, memory foam, to me, that's the best mattress. That's the first mattress I've ever laid down on, and I just went, and that was it. I didn't have to wiggle around to get comfortable. It was just, there it is. And I'll tell you a secret about memory foam too. You can get the high dollar memory foam. I mean, some of that stuff is really expensive. And then you can get the low dollar memory foam, and it's all made in the same place. So, I'm just telling you. You can get some cheap memory foam, and nobody's ever going to sleep on it in your guest room and go, "Wow, that was some cheap memory foam." I mean, nobody's going to do that. It's just going to be, wow. You have a Tempur-Pedic mattress, and then you can say, "Isn't it amazing?" I mean, you're not saying yes, you're not saying no, you're just saying it's amazing. So. Another thing developed by NASA, or that we have because of NASA, is the computer mouse. The computer mouse was invented in the early 1960s by Doug Engelbart, and his research into interactive computer inputs was funded by NASA. The research was furthered by NASA's Bob Taylor, who moved on to manage Xerox and developed the computer mouse. And I wonder why. How did they decide on mouse? Who decided on mouse? And how did that conversation go when they were deciding? I mean, don't tell me that a bunch of people sat around a table and somebody said, "I think we should call it a mouse," and everybody went, "Yeah, Sounds good to me. I mean, somebody had to come up with something stupid to, to before this was just, I mean, somebody,
They're probably just sitting there doing something. What are you doing? I'm just mousing around. Like,
I don't think. I think somebody said, what does this look like?
yeah, the two buttons kind of look like ears, and then got the tail.
Well, I see that now, but I'm trying to think, what would it have been like to look at first? I mean, some nerd probably said, it's like a trilobite. It's a trilobite. It's an archaeological trilobite. It's like a fossil. It's like a trilobite. And somebody said, nobody knows what the crap a trilobite is, you moron. And so maybe somebody suggested rat.
Maybe.
But rat sounds nasty, and mouse sounds kind of cute. If you're thinking Mickey, I mean, there's Mickey Mouse, and he was cute. But Ricky Rat, do you remember Ricky Rat? R-I-C, see you soon, K-E-Y. Why? Because I'm nasty. R-A-T, Ricky Rat. I just made that up. It's not really a thing. NASA also is responsible for infrared thermometers. So, how could we have had COVID without infrared thermometers? Thank you, NASA. I mean, they would have probably canceled COVID if somebody hadn't been able to stick that to your head every time you walked in a place. But you wouldn't be able to do it without NASA. They developed infrared thermometers to gauge the temperature of distant cosmic objects, and the technology eventually found its way to home thermometers used by hypochondriacs everywhere, I guess. Now, this is an interesting one. Michael Phelps would have been naked if it hadn't been for NASA, evidently because they are responsible for his swimsuits. So I'm guessing he'd have been naked if he hadn't had those swimsuits. It's a high-performance suit. And I don't think most of us wear suits that cost $150,000, but I'm guessing those gold medals owe a debt to NASA because it was Speedo's LZR Racer swimsuit, which now that's elite swimmers, that's what they use. But Michael Phelps debuted it, and it owes its unique water dynamic properties to wind tunnel testing conducted at NASA's Research Center. So NASA tested Michael Phelps's suit in a wind tunnel, and when he won his eighth gold medal, he got $1 million check from Speedo.
I guess it made him 1/100th of a second faster.
Yeah, he won that eighth gold medal by 1/100th of a second. That's faster than a lightning strike. That's faster than you can blink your eye. That's faster than a hummingbird can flap its wings one time. Thank you, NASA. Cell phone cameras are another thing. Cell phone cameras. Of course, we couldn't live without cell phone cameras. But the image sensors used in just about every modern digital camera come directly from NASA. Eric Fossum, who's an employee of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratories, was the first to use this technology in the cameras. And the goal was better, cheaper, more efficient cameras for spacecrafts, but the technology was quickly licensed by camera companies and spread all over the world. So, camera phones, which, that has made, I mean, it makes taking pictures a lot easier, but you can't do anything in public. I mean, you can't get away with anything anymore because somebody will have 500 pictures of you doing it, you know. So, self-driving cars. Now, you know, I think it's funny that we're talking about self-driving cars when weren't we supposed to have flying cars by now? I mean, I think we were supposed to have flying cars.
Yeah, we were, according to Back to the Future. Yeah.
I mean, and the George Jetson thing, I mean, we were supposed to have flying cars. And so now it's like self-driving cars. Supposedly, we'll all be using this technology in the near future thanks to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratories Quantum Sciences and Technologies Group. And among the inventions, and this is what actually allows us to have self-driving cars, is the whispering gallery mode optical resonator. It's a spherical resonator for light waves. There's little practical use for the technology until recently, where it's been integrated into GM's LiDAR systems for self-driving cars. And I don't know that I'm going to do that. I'm too much of a control freak to have a car drive itself. What's the dog doing? I know the dog's doing something because everybody out here is going, yeah, we're streaming a show across the world, but a dog is scratching over here to the right. And so we'll take a break. Yeah, you know, this is one thing as a speaker, when I go somewhere and I walk in and they're setting up the place, I always look, I always make sure, you know, I'm not good enough that I think that I can command a room and keep everybody's attention despite distractions. I'm not that good. And so I will always have, you know, curtains closed. You know, I don't want to be standing behind some window or something like that. And that all comes from one time when I was doing a thing and there was a glass wall behind me. And I saw like 1,000 people go, I mean, just all at once. It's like everybody. And I looked behind me and there was a raccoon up against the glass. So yeah. Oh, Baxter. Well, you Baxter in here. You do a better job than I can. The Lunar Lander video game and a bunch of movies are because of NASA. Atari's, you remember their first game, their first arcade game? It wasn't really built on a NASA-developed computer chip or anything, but the game's entire premise, which is safely deposit a tiny little lander on the rocky surface of the moon, is based on NASA's Apollo missions. And also the movies Apollo 13, Hidden Figures, and a lot of the popular culture created between 65 and 1980 have to do with NASA and you know, space stuff. Here's a good one. NASA has allowed us to have LASIK surgery in an effort to determine how a lack of gravity affects eye movements. NASA conducted a series of experiments on the International Space Station in the mid-2000s, and the results aren't useful to earthbound people, the results that they had, because gravity affects eye movements. But the eye tracking technology, which was developed for the experiments, made LASIK vision correction surgery possible. Have you had LASIK?
Me? Mm-hmm. No.
I have. Yep.
I didn't know that about you.
Average astronaut here with my LASIK surgery. How many of you guys have had LASIK? You have? Okay. You know, how long ago did you have it? 5 years? 10 years? How many? Really? I had mine like 10 years ago. 20 years ago. Wow. You know, see, you and I had our LASIK surgery when, and I don't know if you remember this, but the first time they would come out, they would go, come in for an appointment and see if you qualify for LASIK surgery. You know, come in to get a free examination to see if you qualify. And of course, you get there and it's like, do you have $10,000? You qualify. I mean, that was pretty much what it was, okay? But now LASIK, you can get LASIK for like $2.95 an eye.
At the mall.
At the mall. Yeah, why you wait? And you know, while somebody's giving you LASIK, somebody else will pierce your ears. It's crazy. Better scratch-resistant lenses. There were scratch-resistant lenses before Ray-Ban licensed NASA-developed technology for its Survivor sunglass line, but it just wasn't as good. NASA pioneered this coating that coats sensitive instrument displays with a diamond-like carbon, and it makes it 10 times as scratch-resistant as other methods, which is probably overkill for sunglasses, but I mean, you know, because nobody's going to look. I mean, there are some things that I'm thinking you pay more for so that somebody knows you have it or something. Right? I mean, hey, that guy's wearing space glasses, you know, but I don't know that you would look at glasses and say, I think that one is 10 times more scratch resistant than anything I've ever seen before. I don't think you do that. Air traffic control systems. The Federal Aviation Administration and NASA recently completed development on an improved system for managing flights on the ground. Now, when I do this research, I take this stuff and I put it into my own words, but I can't help sometimes just printing exactly what they have because it astounds me. Back that up just a little bit, Matt. And this is, okay, think about this. The Federal Aviation Administration and NASA recently completed development on an improved system for managing flights on the ground. What kind of flights are on the ground?
Yeah.
Why would you have to manage a flight on the ground? But anyway, this year, the Integrated Arrival, Departure, and Surface System was instituted at 27 of the nation's busiest airports. So this beautiful system, 27 airports. So will delayed flights be a thing of the past? No, because you got 5,000 more airports that send in late flights into the 27 that can manage their flights on the ground. Okay, grooved pavement. Grooved pavement. Even if you haven't noticed it, the entire world is less slippery because of NASA. You know, accidents on slippery highways, like sliding accidents, are down as much as 85%. Slipping injuries on pool decks, playgrounds, and industrial places are down too. And it's a continuation of the research NASA did when they first began cutting grooves into airport runways to increase the traction. And they've just continued that research, and pretty soon you'll just be walking along and you'll hit a place and you won't be able to move your feet. The traction will be so, you just can't even pick up your feet. It'll be that good. That's what that research is doing. Emergency foil blankets. You know what I'm talking about? You seen these things? These foil blankets that are packed in first aid kits and given out at the end of marathons were developed by NASA in the mid-'60s, and the materials made by which I don't get this, is made by depositing vaporized aluminum onto thin plastic. And it's used in campers for like sun shields and space telescopes. And as a blanket, it reflects heat back to whoever's wrapped in it. You know Ken Davis? Remember Ken?
Yeah.
Ken Davis is, he was like the first Christian comedian. And so years ago, Ken was doing stadiums. And Ken and Diane lived in Colorado for a while, and he was a big hunter. And Ken took a buddy up in the mountains, and they got kind of stranded up there with a lightning storm. I mean, they're up at like 11,000 feet, and the lightning is popping all around them. And they pull out one of those blankets, and both are huddling under it. And when it all finished, Ken said, "How stupid was that? we took out a metal blanket. We're at 11,000 feet with a metal blanket." So, Nike Airs. These sneakers are a product of two NASA innovations. The harder rubber molding of athletic shoes is done through something called blow rubber molding. It's the process that pioneered at NASA to make helmets. And the shock-absorbing material used in Nike Airs comes from a discovery made by a NASA engineer named Frank Rudy. So Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps are both gajillionaires because of NASA. Okay. Better baby formula. Now, I thought this was pretty interesting because while researching nutrition strategies for a future trip to Mars, NASA scientists discovered a natural source for an omega-3 fatty acid that was previously only found in breast milk. The ingredient is now used in almost all baby formulas on the market. Probably a little more complicated than Tang, but there you go. And the last one is cordless tools. Cordless tools, you know, cordless vacuums. Black & Decker worked real closely with NASA in the 1960s to produce cordless drills, cordless hammers, and which I guess all hammers are cordless, aren't they? I got a cordless hammer here. Hey, if I could only plug this hammer in, you'd be in trouble. But they worked to create this stuff that would work in low gravity or no gravity environments. And so the Dustbuster cordless vacuum and most cordless power tools are a direct result. So how about that? And I was trying to think of anything else. You know, my wife is like somehow fascinated by the space station that goes over every now and then. You know, she has some kind of app that says, you know, space station will be coming by in 30 minutes. And okay, you know, you go out on the back deck. And it isn't like she goes and Googles it and sees what it actually looks like. It's like, it's a slow moving light. And while I agree, that's amazing, I guess it's just, we're just like taking it by faith that that's actually a space station, you know. It could be. I mean, I just can kind of see God taking a Christmas light and go, watch all these people, watch what they're going to do. You know, I can just see that. God going, here, this'll get them. Do you remember that? You remember Gary Larson that did what is that? What was that called? Far Side, yeah. there was one that showed, and the name of it was In God's Kitchen. And it showed God in the flowing robes with the big white beard, and he's got this big pot on the stove, and you can see the world is in it, in the pot. And he's got all these shakers around, and one of them's marked Caucasians, and one of them's marked Asians, and one of them's marked Hispanic, and then God's sprinkling one in, and it's marked jerks, and God's going, this will be interesting. Hey, we had a good time with you guys today. Marcia Carlson Taylor, glad you enjoyed it. We had a good time too. We had, let's see, today's Tuesday, so the podcast came out today.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and it was part 2 of our best of music. The guest we have had on the Professional Noticer, who are our favorites. And I looked at the email as it came in, and I couldn't help but think, I wonder how many shows have featured Bill Gaither and Ted Nugent. Probably not many, but we had Jimmy Yeary, Bill Gaither, Ted Nugent, Brent Burns, and Armand and Albert. Yep, from LA. Gloria, watching from Ecuador. Yes, Gloria, the internet is amazing. Dana Kilpatrick, love the podcast. Michael Perry is next week on the podcast. And Jen Andrews says someone always gives us the Far Side calendar for Christmas. And we've seen every one of them by dinner time. Yeah, I know. I love those things. And I hope the guy made a fortune because he retired to play the banjo. So anyway, we'll see you Thursday. Thursday, of course, is Wisdom Harbor Day on the Blue Plate. So make sure you have joined wisdomharbor.com. And, come on, you guys. If you haven't joined, seriously, an entire year for your entire family is less than half a tank of gas. Okay, so come on. And this is going into schools, going into businesses, and we're having a great time with it. I was talking to Joe Camp this morning, back and forth. Joe and I were going, and Joe Camp is a new contributor to Wisdom Harbor. We'll see some of his stuff soon. Joe is he's Benji's dad. He's the guy who did the Benji movies, and so we're going to be doing a series. What? There he is. There's Benji. You see Benji? So we're going to be doing a series on Wisdom Harbor, just kind of roughly titled at this point, Breaking Down Benji, where we're going to show one of the sequences that Benji did, and then we'll have Joe talk about it and tell how they got him to do that, how long it took, what was going on that day, and how you train a dog to do that, and then we'll show that again. And so these will be little 7 or 8 minute pieces that we'll be able to, and he's going to also do some animal training stuff. I was just in Nashville with Joe and Kathleen, and they have horses now. And Joe has written a book called The Soul of a Horse. And they have, I think they had 6 horses. One of them was a Mustang that was 4 years old when it was taken out of a herd in Wyoming. And, they were going to do away with it. And then a horse was too mean, and they got in, a horse had been abused. That's how they got these horses. But, I've always been a little nervous around horses because horses are, they're big and they bite and they kick and, they're big enough to lean up against you on a fence and just crush you like a bug. And so I've always been a little bit nervous around horses, But these 6 horses were the sweetest horses I've ever seen in my life. And the weird thing is, and I haven't read Soul of a Horse yet. I've got it right on my desk to read. But the weirdest thing is, he has trained these horses without a rope, without a bridle, without a halter. I mean, he's not laying a hand on these horses, not making them do anything. And these horses do everything he says to do. I mean, he's like, come here, stand up on that. And the horse will get up on it, take a bow, and the horse, talk to me with your feet, pound, 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 give me a kiss. I mean, how do you do that? How do you get a horse to give you a kiss without pulling his lips and going, this is what I want you to do, stupid? I don't know how you get him to do that. I mean, because the horse is big enough, he can do whatever he wants to do. But these horses are beautiful and they're incredibly well trained. I mean, when I went down to the stalls, a couple of them were reading the Wall Street Journal, and so these are smart horses. Okay, so the Benji thing is coming on Wisdom Harbor, and Baxter needs to have his own membership because Baxter is going to love the Benji stuff. All right. We'll see you Thursday. Bye-bye.